Hi, welcome to my channel Mostly Knitting. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new here, this is a weekly podcast where I talk mostly about the knitting that I've been doing during the week. And I also put out regular tutorials, although I haven't done one for a few weeks, but they will be coming back just when my regular work settles down a little bit. I'm a high school maths teacher here in Sydney, Australia. Right, so I actually only have one small finished object, so I thought I might actually start with my segment Friend from the Vault, which is actually Friends from the Vault today because I have 3 to show you, and I'm actually wearing one of them now, and this is the Lightweight Pullover by Fettig. And I showed like a variation of that version last week, so I thought I might show the ones that I've made that actually are 2-pattern. So this one that I'm wearing, I actually made this in 2011, so this is nearly 13 years old. It's made with Tosh Merino Light in the colourway Victorian Gothic, which is, you know, it's a grey, but it's definitely got sort of some purple undertones to it. And so it's a cow neck top, really. I mean, I guess it's sort of a pullover, but I made it sort of with no ease so that it was more like a top to wear. And so it's got this cow neck. The cow neck I knit on 3.75mm needles, and then the rest of the body is on a 3.5mm needle, which is what I generally like to use for Tosh Merino Light. This is one of my favourite yarns to use. It's next to skin soft, it's 100% merino, and it's superwash. So for tops, that's really nice if it does end up going in the machine. I wouldn't put it in the dryer, but and I do actually wash these by hand, but if it ended up in the washing machine, it wouldn't, shouldn't shrink. Right, so I knit it with it was just under 3 skeins of yarn. So I'll show you. So I made it really long, actually. This was back when I was, you know, this is 13 years ago. So I was making my sweaters and tops really long at that point. And so it's got a 2x2 rib on the bottom and on the cuffs. And I think I just did a normal bind off with those because I wasn't really doing tubular bind offs or anything like that at the time. And so this one is actually a 32-inch bust, so that for me that's no ease. And with the cowl, like you actually start, it's top down, you start here and obviously very nicely you just cast on, I think long tail cast on, just knit for ages, and then it's raglan increases down the sides. You know, for the sleeves where you sort of increase 8 stitches every other round. Split off for the sleeves. So a fairly standard top-down raglan construction. Very, very easy. Loads and loads of stockinette, little bit of ribbing at the bottom. So completely mindless. And this was very much as like a work staple for me. I'd wear it with black pants. But, you know, just with the length, it really, like, here's where, because I was wearing pants much lower back then. Here's where these jeans stop. So that's quite a lot of fabric over the jeans. So I don't really wear these 3 as much because they just sort of, even if I wear them under with a skirt, that's a lot of fabric underneath the skirt. So I think if I was to make another one, and I'm also not really wearing this kind of like cow necky thing that much, but it's still, obviously it's really nice in winter and I don't like having a cold neck, so it's very functional. But I guess the style, I just haven't been wearing it as much lately, but it's definitely like, it is like a wardrobe staple for me. And now that I'm wearing it now, I think, oh yes, winter's coming. For us here in Australia, I should start wearing it a bit more. So I have 2 other ones that I've made, and I might actually get changed and show them to you because each one is a lot of knitting. So I guess it deserves its little bit of time in the sun. So I'll get changed and show you each one of those. So this one that I've just put on now is made with Madelinetosh Air Light, which is quite similar to Tosh Merino Light, but it's got it's a blend of wool, 60% wool, and then I think 20% alpaca and 20% silk. I don't think they're making it anymore. It's a tiny bit lighter in weight than the Tosh Merino Light, so like there's a little bit more yardage, and my gauge was a little bit smaller. So I knit it pretty much the same as the Tosh Merino Light one, but it's a little bit smaller, so it has a little bit of negative ease. So this one's 29 inches. So I think I did my numbers, yeah, I'm pretty sure all exactly the same, but it has turned out just a little bit smaller, which is, I guess that's 3 inches of negative ease for me, but like it fits in a very similar way. you know, because whether it's no ease or 3 inches of negative ease in a top like this, it doesn't seem to make a huge difference in terms of the fit. This one I made just like a tiny bit shorter, like 15 inches, but it's still, that's still very long, right? It's still, I do wear it with this one. I've got like a sort of a really nice skirt that's sort of in brown tones. So that's why, and again, like for me, this was just really great knitting to take to the park with the kids. So this one I made also in 2011. So this one's, so they've held up really well, right? Like I wore these a lot over the years throughout winter. Oh, it's also got, I should mention, there's, where is it, waist shaping. So I did waist shaping down the sides. So I was doing that a lot as well. Pretty much most of my tops now, I just knit straight down, but it's very fitted. So I did quite a bit of, just looking at it, it looks like there's waist shaping here, but it's actually not. The waist shaping is actually on the sides. Yeah, so this is the one, oh, and the colorway was faded chinos. And yep, I think that's all I had to say about this one. I think I might have made this collar a little bit longer. I just like how this, maybe this is the alpaca and the silk. I like how this collar drapes a little bit better than the Tosh Merino light one. And I have one more chocolate brown one, so I'll show you that one as well. Right, so this last one is Malabrigo Sock in the colorway Chocolate Amargo. I don't know if you can see the color that well. It's a really nice, rich chocolatey brown. And this is the lightest of the 3 in terms of weight. So Malabrigo Sock is a light fingering for sure. And I can feel it's quite snug on my arms. I mean, it's very soft. All 3 yarns are totally next to skin soft, but this one's turned out to be 29 inches. And I also did the waist shaping as well. So 29, actually, sorry, the last one was, the faded chinos one was a 30-inch bust, so 2 inches of negative ease. This one's 29 inches, so 3 inches of negative ease. And I also knit it 15 inches down, obviously. And this one I think I made in 2014, so a little bit, a few years later. So still a little bit, a bit long for what I'm wearing now, but nice. The thing that I'm really noticing is the tightness in the sleeves. So yes, like it's not, I don't really like tight sleeves, but I especially don't like it in a jumper. I don't mind it so much in this top, but I can definitely feel it. It's really snug. I'm not sure what, it's definitely negative ease on my arms. I can feel that, but it is a really soft yarn. So Malabrigo Soft, Tosh, and Tosh Merino Light and Tosh Air Light, all really, really soft and lovely to wear next to the skin. Yep, so that's it. They're my three friends from the vault. And now I'll get into my one finished object and my works in progress, so I might get changed out of this. Right, so the only finished object that I have, I don't actually have because I've already given it away, and it was a hat for me as Grandpa Gaby, just a pretty basic beanie with a folded brim. And I showed one last week, so I'll just put a picture of it up here. But when I gave it to him on Tuesday night, and he put it on and he was like, it sort of just barely covered his ears. And he said, yes, I really do like them to cover my ears because I get cold. And I was like, every time I've given him one and it's covered his ears, he's folded it up. So anyway, I thought, well, I guess if I do a hat and a beanie and it is too long, he can always fold it up. But if it's too short, it's not going to work. Anyway, all that to say, I'm definitely going to give him some more beanies, but this time I'll make them a bit longer, which feels more natural to me. And maybe what I'll do is I'll just do a normal 2x2 ribbing, because you can fold that up. Or, you know what is actually would be really good for him would be those Oslo hats, because you can kind of fold them up as, it has a folded brim anyway, so you just fold them up as much as you like. I just won't make it a very deep folded brim, and then you can have a short folded brim. Oh, that's such a good idea. Anyway, that's my new plan and I have so many of those hats that like nobody's worn. So I think next time I see him, or next time Mia goes to see him, I'll give her some of the Oslo hats, or the Musselburgh hat. That would be another good one as well. And then he can pick which ones he likes and send back which ones he doesn't. Anyway, that was my only finished object for the week. I think he does definitely wear my hats, so I think they'll get worn, but it would be nice, especially now winter's coming, to give him some other ones that he can sort of adjust That's a really good point about those hats, actually, because, you know, people like to wear their hats at different levels, and if it has a folded brim, then you get to just pick, like, and it also just gives a bit more flexibility for head size, you know, like if someone has a really like larger and deeper head, they'll just have a slightly shorter brim. Hadn't even thought about that, but yes, I think I'll do, that's why Musselburgh and Oslo hats are really good gift knitting hats. Right, so I'm going to get on to my works in progress. I'm actually wearing one at the moment, so it's not finished because it's meant to have sleeves. This is the, I usually start with my new works in progress. Well, I'm wearing this one, so I'll talk about this one now, and then I'll mention I do have one new work in progress. So this is the Storm Sweater by Petite Knit, and I'm knitting it out of Pure Gynt in the colourway Ash Melange, and that is the recommended yarn and colour in the pattern as well. It's the one that that she's wearing in the design, in the cover, right? Yep. So I've actually finished the body. It's very long. I actually measured it from here down. It's actually only 13.5 inches down, but this sits quite low. So I haven't really made, sweaters with this kind of, you know, I have made oversized sweaters, but usually they've been like a yoked sweater or a raglan or something, whereas this is the first one that I've made that's basically, you know, practically a vest, right? And then I pick up the stitches and knit down. So I'll talk a little bit about it. I'm using the recommended needle size, which is a 4mm for the body and a 3.5 for the ribbing. So I picked up the stitches around here and did the double fold and then knit it down, and yeah, that was pretty straightforward actually, and I like it. I don't think I've ever had a sweater with a double fold, but I think something that's this big and oversized, I think it actually looks quite nice. So I'm knitting the extra small, which is a 42.5 inch bust, and that's what it's turning out to be, so I'm on gauge. Let me see, I bought 13 balls, which is the recommended number for my size, and I have 5 balls left for the sleeve. So that's 125 grams for each sleeve. That normally should be enough, but I am a little bit nervous about that because of how oversized they are. So, and it's not very good yardage. So 50 grams is 91 meters. So I'm going to be very conscious and careful as I knit the sleeves and be weighing the yarn and, you know, just sort of thinking, like, how much do I need to taper them? Yeah, I haven't really sort of seen on anyone's project page, like they've put how much yarn they've used, but you know, everyone's gauge is a bit different, and how much did they use for the sleeves. So I've got 4 full balls, and if I put all my other little balls together, it comes up to 1 more ball. So I've got 5. I'm really hoping that's enough. I'm just gonna have to make it enough. I could obviously undo and make less, you know, I could, but the way the pattern's written is if you want it shorter, you just take off a whole section. So if I did that, it would be like up here. Oh, and I also did the recommended bind off is a, you know, 2 rows of double knitting and then a tubular bind off. I haven't blocked this. So you see how it's kind of like this is pulled in quite a bit, and it's a bit sort of, you know, I don't know, it's not super, it'll block, like it's got sort of a bit of a bubble over here, and obviously ribbing does pull in, but I think it will sort of, I'll be curious to see how it blocks out actually, and I think I might block it before I do the sleeves. Yeah, I think I will, because I've got plenty of other things to work on, so I think, yeah, so I'm looking forward to finishing this. I don't know how long it will, like, I'm not in a rush or anything, but I'm really enjoying it. The textured pattern is very easy to knit. I can't, unless I'm on the ribbing or something, I can't read and knit this, but I can definitely watch podcasts or, you know, listen to audiobooks or whatever while I'm knitting on this. You don't have to pay too much attention. All right, so that's where I'm up to with my storm sweater, and I will talk about my new work in progress. Now, I did say that I wasn't going to cast on this until I'd finished the storm sweater, but I just wanted to, so I did. So this is the Snow Wonder by Heidi Kirrmaier, and I am knitting it out of Rerum Natura Gilliat in the colourway Ciel, and it is a top down. So I've cast on and I'm working my way around this section here, and I'm just about, oh, I'm going to sneeze. So I'm working my way down the neck, and I'm just about to cast on stitches, like I'm right on that row, ready to cast on stitches and join to knit in the round. So that would be this bit here, and then I have to pick up stitches later. And so there's actually quite a bit of knitting before you get to the bobbles. So I haven't even practiced any of the bobbles yet, and I know that lots of different people have tutorials, and Heidi's got lots of information about it. So I will definitely, on a little swatch, practice a few of the bobbles and see which kind of technique and method I like, or, you know, I like the result and am happy knitting. But I think before I get to that, I'll probably pick up the stitches around the neck and do that, the 2x2 ribbing at the neck, because I just like when I've been enjoying knitting this down already, having this done, because I feel like and I also quite like, as long as I'm happy with it, I like weaving in the ends, and you know, so it just kind of looks a bit tidier as I'm knitting it. So yep, so that's one thing that I find kind of interesting. I'm about to join in the round, and when the pattern asks you to do that, it actually wants me to cut the yarn and then start my beginning of round over here. And so, like, obviously I can't start my beginning of round. I can, so what I could just knit over to it, and then that would be my beginning of round, and then this side would be like a bit higher than, like one row higher than this side. And that's what a lot of patterns do. They don't bother with the cut the yarn and start over here. They just, like, it's like as if that's going to make a difference in the whole sweater, the fact that you've got one extra row just in this little section. So what? And I do find that kind of interesting. I sort of think, like, really, is it really worth cutting the yarn and starting over here? I'll do it, because it's only 2 more ends to weave in. But part of me is just like, is this really necessary? Do we really have to do this? But I'll be a good girl and I'll do it, because it's only 2 more ends to weave in. And this yarn is just super soft and squishy. I'll just show you. So I'm knitting this on 4.5 millimeter needles, and it's definitely really heathered. You can see it's you know, it's like a nice blue, very similar to what Heidi used Shelter in hers, but this you know, it's quite similar. Really good yardage on this yarn actually. So yep, so I did start this before this one was finished, but this one just feels like, I don't know, I needed a new project on the needles. I felt like starting something new. Right, so that's Storm Sweater. What was that one? Snow Wonder. Now, I do have 3 more projects that are still on the needles. And what will I show? I'll show you this one now. This is the Half and Half Wrap by Purl Soho, and it's a free pattern. And I have started the 3rd ball. I think last week I had 20 grams left of the other ball. So obviously I finished that one, and I only just started this one. This is knit out of Purl Soho linen quill in bird's egg blue and red poppy. So it's actually really like coming along. That's all I've got in terms of, I've got, I think, about 84 stitches left on the needles. So I cast on for a large, which is 260 stitches. So you can see it's, but I still have a lot to go. So I've only just started the 2nd ball. I just weighed it now, and it weighs 102 grams. And so it must have, and I've already done a couple of rows. I forgot to weigh it before I started. Anyway, it's like I've got at least this whole ball, which is 400 meters, and some of another one to go, because it's roughly half with the yarn. So still a lot more knitting to go, but I'm sort of on that roughly quarter of a ball a week, which means I've got about 5 or 6 weeks still to go if I stay on track with that. And yeah, I just, like, I'm at that point now with it that I'm like, could I see myself making another one of these? Almost like I'd need some, like, quite a bit of time between them. I could not start another one of these straight after this one. Even though I'm really enjoying it, even though it's fantastic knitting, it just feels like it's been going on for forever. And you do kind of lose a bit of joy and excitement about working on it. Like, I definitely got excited when I changed colours, and now I'm like, quite a slog. So I can see perhaps why people might be more into maybe that Soho square that Jackie Rose has designed, because there is a few other things, like there's a few changes of colours, whereas here it's like this one, done. So anyway, but I'm really curious to see how I wear it. Like, it's going to be really one very big square. So anyway, that's the Half and Half Wrap. It'll be a while before it's finished, which is probably why I just really felt like casting on That's No Wonder, because everything was like, aside from my socks, everything's like a big project and nothing is going to be finished anytime soon. So anyway, that's that one. So I've got 2 more works in progress to go. I'll show the Cami number 9 last. I'll just quickly show you. These are the skimmer socks. I'm just working down the foot on those by Sheila Toy Stromberg, and that's also a free pattern. These ones are going to be from my mum, and that's still the first sock. And I still haven't found where the second ball is, but I'm sure it's somewhere around here. Don't need it yet. And my last work in progress is the Cami number 9 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. And you can see I did the neck. So this I'm using Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the colourway Bark, and I'm using it on 1 needle size smaller, which is a 2.75 millimetre needle. I might actually try this on because I've got like a little top on under this. So, because I think it's worth seeing. So I did what the pattern said, and I picked up pretty much the right number of stitches. I think it was 1 for 1 everywhere, except on the straight, maybe 2 for 3. Maybe that was something else. Anyway, whatever the pattern said to do, I did. And let me see. Oh gosh, I'll be a bit careful here. So you can see I can get it on okay. And I have decided, like I'm really happy that I did the neckline, because I do like, you know, like I've said before, I like to sort of see how things are looking. And there will be, like I have to do this kind of, so you pick up with a 2 millimetre needle and then you knit something like 18 rows. And then it was, oh yeah, and you pick up on, I think I mentioned this last week, you pick up on the wrong side and then you knit and then fold it over. And then you sew this down. I'm going to put a picture of because what I did, because it's sort of 2 millimetre needle's really small, so it's sort of curling in. And so I folded it over, and then I used stitch markers, because I didn't want to be like sewing it down and then have this much room for this much fabric. So I put stitch markers all the way around so that it kind of, everything was like lining up. And then I started doing the technique, which there is a video on how to do it, on how to sort of sew it down. Oh, actually, I'll take it off so I can show you up closer. And I did use, last week I was talking about whether I actually need to pull apart the strands, and because this yarn is made up of 3 plies, and whether I needed to just maybe use, because in the video it looks like she's using like a much lighter yarn to sew it together. I just tried it with the yarn as it is, all 3 plies, and I think it's totally fine. So it's probably going to be a bit of clanking, so I'm just going to try and hang on to those and show you up close. Is that the right side? So the yarn is actually going through those, you know, the plait, because that's the bind off. And you're sewing it down like that. And so you're actually going through, I mean, there's a video on it, right? And they talk through the video, but in Danish, but you really don't need, there's no subtitles. But if you're just following what they're doing in the video, it comes out really fine. And I'll show you from the other side. Like it's just sewn down on the inside like that. Yeah, so it worked out really well. It was quite straightforward, and I was able to use, I'm really glad that I was able to just use the whole strand of yarn, because I did want the integrity. I didn't want it to be like, because you are going through this a lot with quite a long strand of yarn, and if that was not all 3 plies, like it might have broken as I was doing it, or just not have had the structure. So yeah, I'm gonna put this in progress storm sweater back on, because it's getting a little bit cold, so I can at least have it on while I'm for the rest of the podcast. Right, so that's it for my works in progress, 5 of them at the moment. And yeah, I don't, anyway, I'll talk about plans later, but I'm happy with those 5 at the moment, and I'm enjoying all of them, and each one has a different function, you know, like the socks are for when I'm walking. Oh, that was the other thing I was gonna say, sorry. I had debated whether to pull out this body and cast on less stitches under the arms, but I put it up against my pie camisole, and it's actually really very close, and I didn't feel like it would make such a significant difference to take out 8 stitches. Yes, it would make it a little bit smaller, but I think it's going to be fine. I actually feel pretty confident around that, having put it up against my pie camisole, which I used the same yarn for, and it's a similar kind of, you know, fitted camisole. So I'm ready to start working down the body, but I just have to decide, like, do I want to just start working down the body, or will I do the sleeves first? Given that it's already kind of ready to go, like as in I don't have another ball hanging off it, I think I might, if I can sort of, next time I have some time, because it takes a while, I'll pick up the stitches. It's not double knitting, so it's actually very, like, it's just pick up stitches on a 2mm needle and knit like 18 rows, I think, something like that, and then sew it down, or bind off and then sew it down. So the sewing down took me 90 minutes. So that's not, you know, it's not a crazy amount of time. And then once I've picked up those stitches, then it's just stocking it in the round, so that's not hard either. So I think I'll do that. I think I'll do the sleeves next, not sleeves, but, you know, this, you know, the armhole treatment, and make sure I'm actually 100% happy with it. Like, I'll check that one, yes, it's looking good. Then I'll do the other one, then I'll feel even more confident going down the body. So yes, although I don't know when I'll get to wear that, because it's definitely getting cooler here. Right, so yep, that's it for my 5 works in progress. What I thought I might do now actually is mention to you a little bit about where Beck's up to with some of her projects. So if you're new here, my friend Beck, we do a lot of, you know, knitting and knit chat together, and we've been on retreats and things together. Oh, speaking of retreats, I have to remember, I'll tell you about the retreat in August here in Sydney, but and we're both going on that one together. But anyway, she's been on the podcast before, if you haven't seen any of those episodes. Last episode when she was on, she was had bought yarn for some Oslo hats to make for a couple who are getting married, and those she's finished those and sent them off, so I'll just put a picture of those up there. They were knit with Knitting for Olive, soft silk mohair, and I don't know if it's called, is it called soft silk, whatever, the Knitting for Olive mohair and the Merino, so they look really nice. And the other thing that she was working on, which was amazing, was the Secret Garden sweater. So she's working her way down the sleeve now, and I'll put a picture up here that she sent me, because she had done the colour work on a 4mm needle and then gone down to a 3.5mm needle for the rest of the sleeve, but it ended up ballooning a little bit, and she really wanted it to just, because sometimes with colour work it really does pull it in a little bit. And so if you then just keep knitting either on the same needle or without decreasing stitches or anything, you're going to have your colour work, and then it will come out and it almost would look like a little puffy balloony thing after the colour work, which was not the look she wanted. So she ripped it back and I think decreased some stitches, and maybe even went down to a 3mm needle like she did on the body. So that's the picture that I'm going to put up there, was the before picture. So she pretty much knit the whole sleeve and then was like, I'm not liking this. But I think she's put so much work into this sweater, and it's already looking amazing. It was hard, but worth ripping it back and going, nah, I do actually want this to look like it's, you know, like it's going straight down my arm, not a, which is fine if it's a look that you're going for, but it definitely wasn't. She just wanted it to look like it was continuing with the same circumference. Yeah, so I can't wait to see how that's looking when it's all done. So, so that's it for that section on Beck's projects, and hopefully, certainly by August, if I don't see Beck before August, by August, I may as well mention it now. It's kind of not it's its own segment. I love going on knitting retreats. They're so fun. It's just wonderful to get away and be with other people and learn a skill. And so there is a knitting retreat that the Knitters Guild in New South Wales is putting on, and it's down in the down south from here, and I live in the Sutherland Shire, so it's not too far from me, maybe about 40-minute drive. And it's at those sorts of places where they run kids camps, so it's bunks, and you know, it's not fancy, but it's pretty inexpensive. So if you're a guild member, it's $330 Australian for 2 nights with all meals and all that kind of stuff and classes. And Anne Budd is coming out for that retreat, and she's doing like 3 different talks. I'm doing a class on German short rows. So, and it's only a short class, like an hour and a quarter. So I'll get to sort of attend other classes and hang out and everything, but I've just got one class that I'm going to teach there. So yeah, so I'm so excited about that. That's the first weekend in August. And so, yeah, like I'm sure I know Beck's already booked. We're both going, and I'm sure we'll like make time to do a podcast then. So yeah, so that's coming up. Sorry about all the umming. The other thing I was going to say, which is my next segment's acquisitions. Now, I didn't purchase this because it's free, but I did order it. And this is a shade card from Bendio Woollen Mills. So, and when Beck and I when we went to Bendio, last year, we actually went to the Woollen Mills, and you couldn't actually see, you couldn't see where the mill was running, but we went into the shop that's next to it. And so they have these shade cards, which I love. Like, I wish more places were able to do it, but I guess it needs to be a place that's not constantly changing colours. But wouldn't it be nice if like Knitting for Olive did something like that? Because I would love to have one of these. So these are their different kinds of lines. This is their classic 8-ply, but like their classic yarn, but it comes in different plies as well. And then this is luxury. This is their cotton. And yeah, so I love being able to have that, because the reason I was thinking about this, I'll just grab, you know, I was talking about making this Stella quilt cushion, and I really wanted to have like the base yarn that was, I think you need a fair bit of it, like about 300 grams. So I thought actually I might even, the problem is it's a good thing, but Bendio Woollen Mills, the yarn put up is a 200 gram ball, so it's huge. So I think probably for this, I at least want the base to be in one of these, probably like one of the cream, maybe the luxury, like the cream, depending on the colors that I put with it. I was thinking maybe either the cream or the light gray, or sort of a light beigey. And then I'll pick some colors from Stash for the cushion. So that's an acquisition for me that is free, but I got it in the mail, and I was very excited to get that. So, and I think it's awesome. So at least I know, and they have really good shipping, like as in it's free shipping. At the moment, I think it's free shipping if you order more than $50 Australian, which is about 30 US. No, 35 US? 30 probably, with the maybe 32. The exchange rates, I haven't paid attention to it lately, but it's not great for Australia anyway. But I think that price is going up. I think pretty soon they're changing the minimum free shipping to like $70. So I think that's changing around June. So if you're in Australia and you like to order from Bendigo, you might want to get in if you don't have that big an order to do before June. Although I don't think it's right to abuse that, right? Like, this still costs them money. That's why they're having to raise the shipping price. So, but it's nice to know that I probably and it's really quite inexpensive yarn for really good quality wool. Anyway, I've been babbling a lot about that. So that was my acquisition. I'll get up to what has caught my eye. So I was watching those twins who knit the other day, and I think it was Rachel finished the Margot top by Gregoria Fibers, and that's knit out of a DK weight yarn. And I just thought that was really pretty. I really liked the texture and the detail. I find DK tops a bit heavy for a top, but this one looked quite nice. And I think obviously doesn't use a lot of yarn, and it's pretty quick to knit. So yeah, that caught my eye, and I thought, I might actually do a bit of stash diving for that. Yeah, so I think she used something that was like a cotton alpaca blend, maybe 80% cotton, 20% alpaca. Yeah, and that just makes it a little bit more enjoyable to knit with. Maybe even like the cotton merino from Knitting for Olive held double might work for something like that. Just a thought. And that's pretty good yardage, the cotton merino. I've got a ball band here. The cotton merino is 50 grams, 250 meters. So I reckon 2 of those, like holding that double, would probably work pretty well for a top like that. So anyway, something to think about. The other thing that has caught my eye is the Florence bag by Petite Knit. So I was showing someone this pattern, you know, because they were asking what I was making. And so I showed them the pattern, and they were like, oh, I like that bag. And I was like, yeah, that bag's really cute too. And that is a knit bag. So that's the Florence bag. And it uses Tynn liner, which, sorry, I'm just reaching over here. Where's my Tynn liner? Sorry about that. I actually have, so something like that. I actually even have that in stash, and I think it uses 3 of those strands because it's pretty heavy. 3 of those strands together. So I don't know whether that's a pretty nice color actually. I think I might even have 3 balls of that. But what I think, if I do make it, I reckon I would order from them like the leather straps and the zipper. Probably not the lining. I've got enough stash that I could use, like I don't need to buy the lining. But especially when I'm making something like that, similar to what I made for the town and field bags, I quite like ordering a kit that has all of the actual, like, not that that's a kit, but like I actually want to use the leather straps that she sells, the zipper that she uses. And then if I want to source that locally, I've got the actual one to be like, oh, that's the length I want. That's kind of the weight, the quality, similar with the zipper. Like, you know, I'd be looking for something that has like a similar, if I really want to match it, and yeah, so that's definitely caught my eye, and I think that might be quite a nice, I could either use stash, yeah, it'd be nice, actually it would be nice. Like I was just going to make a top out of that, but I didn't have a set plan for it. It's got a lot of pink in it. It's beige, but it's got a lot of pink in it, so but I think it might be quite a pretty color for that bag. I'm not sure. I think that is definitely more caramel. I really like that color, whereas this has got a bit of pink in it. Anyway, that's caught my eye. Anything else? No, that's it. So I'm coming up to plans. Obviously, like that's not a plan yet. That's just that's got my eye. But plans are actually things that I'm gonna knit pretty soon. So one of them, I've talked about it before, but it's the poppy tee. I'm definitely gonna make that out of, because I have the yarn and everything, Sunday and Tynn silk mohair. So hold those 2 together, and I think I'd like that in my wardrobe pretty soon. So that will be an incentive for me to get cami number 9. Although, like before, I might actually start this before cami number 9's done, but that's probably my next garment on the needles. Oh, except Beck and I talked about making charisma together. Let me see if I got the yarn for that. Right, so because when Beck and I were going to make charisma together, so she bought this yarn. This is Rowan Patina, and Beck bought it in like the gold color, and I got it in like the pinky color, confetti, I think this is called. And we were going to do like a little knit along together for it. So it's Charisma by Martin Story. And but Beck wanted to, she's much more monogamous with her knitting. She's going to finish the Secret Garden sweater, and then this is the next thing on her needles. So I'm going to do it at the same time as her. So I'll park my other stuff and knit this, although like I'll probably still be knitting on that as well, but I'll start this at the same time as her. Now, Charisma by Martin Story is a free pattern, but it consists of 2 pages, one of which is the picture. So it is a 1-page pattern. It is knit front and back separately and then sewn together, which I don't mind. It's short sleeves. I probably will knit that according to the pattern, but like in terms of, I'm not going to try and do it in the round. It will just be mattress stitch up the side, which isn't very hard to do. The only thing that I will 100% change is for the shaping on the like the shoulders, it's got a stair step bind off, which is like bind off 5 stitches at the start of the next 6 rows, and then bind off, and then so you have this like stepped bind off, which then when you try to knit, like sew that together, that is really hard to sew together and get a nice effect. And so I've done this before, but I haven't done it in a while because there aren't that many patterns that are written like that with that, because that's a very old-fashioned way of doing the bind off and then having to sew it together. It's much better to do it using short rows, my personal opinion, using short rows, because then instead of binding off, you just don't go as far, so you've still got the live stitches on the end, and you do some kind of wrap and turn or whatever. And then at the end, you do a 3 needle bind off, and you still get the stability of a seam with the 3 needle bind off, because you actually do, it is a bind off, and a bind off is more structured than say grafting. So I wouldn't graft it, but with a 3 needle bind off, it's just so much easier, and it's one continuous thing instead of mattress stitching along a stair step is really unpleasant. So that is something that I'm definitely going to do. Beck's not as keen on it being quite so bat wing, so she might make a few modifications there, but I quite like the bat wing, so I'm going to keep that. But for Beck, she might just not increase out like that. She might increase less rapidly, and then maybe, I don't know, we'll have to think about that. Have a chat with her about what to do, whether you just have to cast on more stitches or something under the arms. We'll have a think about that. But for me, I'm going to follow the pattern like that. So that is definitely upcoming once Beck's finished her Secret Garden sweater. The other thing that I will mention as plans, because I talked about it last week, about making another black top. And some people, so I was sort of looking for recommendations on a nice black crew neck top that would work for a fingering or probably a light fingering. And a few people mentioned the Tolster tee, because there is a fingering weight version of that in the pattern. Unfortunately, I don't have the pattern, and it doesn't actually say what the fingering weight gauge is, which would be helpful for me. But the pattern just says DK, and there is a fingering version if you buy it, but I'm like, what's the gauge for the fingering weight version? Does anyone know the gauge? If you have the Tolster tee, can you tell me what the gauge is for the fingering weight version? The other thing that I'm not so sure about that tee for what I'm looking for is the neckline. It's a little bit sort of straight across. I do want something that's a little bit more like this, a little bit more rounded. And so I was thinking about So Faded. So this So Faded pullover has that kind of rounded neckline. It's written for a fingering weight. It has like garter sections here, so I just wouldn't do the garter sections. I would just do stockinette. But yes, I at least that construction, that's kind of more what I'm after. It does involve picking up stitches afterwards, but I'm okay with that. I don't, it's not the worst thing in the world. I've done that plenty of times. Anyway, so that's kind of mentally in my plans, because I do want another black top, but I'm still experimenting as to what would be the best pattern for that. Right, so I'm nearing the end of all of this. I did just want to make a mention of, not last episode, but the one before, so 3 weeks ago, I just mentioned a thank you to people who had supported me on coffee. And after mentioning that, a number of people did donate on coffee, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for that. Now I have some PayPal funds to buy some patterns and things, and I just really appreciate it. So it's nice for me to know that I've got some money in there, and when I want to make something, like I haven't bought the poppy tea, but that will be the next thing that I make, and I have some funds in there to make it. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to people who have donated in that way, because it's really lovely. Like, it's not, I definitely don't expect that. Like, it's just I know I feel that sometimes when I'm watching a podcaster and I want to, I want to donate, or especially like Roxanne Richardson, she's got fantastic tutorials, and she has a coffee page, and I think, well, I've learnt from you. I've really appreciated what I've learnt from you. So I like to do that. It's not like but it's like a one-off. I'll watch something of hers and think, oh, so like, anyway, that for me, I just wanted to say thank you. But it's not necessary. It's just, if you wanted to, that page is there, and I just wanted to say thank you for doing it, because it's really lovely when I go to buy something and there's some money in there. So thank you. Right, so I'm moving on to my personal stuff now. So if you're leaving me now, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I'll be back next week. And I don't know, I might even, if I have time, I might try and do a tutorial this weekend. If not, I plan to get back into that. I've got a few ones already, mentally lined up coming up. Right, so onto my personal stuff. I have been working really hard at Experienced Teacher, and I've made great progress, and it's not fun. It's probably one of the least enjoyable things I've had to do in my job, but when it's finished, it's finished, and I'm hoping to get it done by the end of this weekend before I go back to work. So that's the plan. So I've been doing a lot of that, but I have been doing some nice things for myself, going out to dinner with my friends, going for walks, doing yoga. I've done that a couple of times now. yeah, so that's been really good. I had planned to do some sewing and weaving these holidays. That was going to be a gift that I was going to give myself, but I haven't had time. And I can't dedicate a whole day to sewing, and it would probably stress me out to be like, what am I going to make? And I just don't have the energy or the time to give like the proper amount that I like. Knitting I can pick up and put down, and so that's a gift to myself to do something like that because I enjoy it and it's my break. And sewing, even though I enjoy it, it would probably stress me out right now. And same with weaving, because I haven't woven anything in such a long time and I need headspace to do that. So I had planned to do that these holidays, but that's going to be next holidays, I think, when I actually have, and then it can be a joyful thing for me rather than a stressful thing of like, I don't really have time to do this. I've got all this other stuff to do. Yeah, so that's kind of it. That's all I've really done. Yeah, so just going out for dinner. I went to Seder with my daughter Mia on Tuesday night. That's when I gave Gaby his hats. So that was really fun. I love getting together with friends and family and big gatherings. So yeah, and I hadn't been to a Seder in a while, so that was really lovely. That was on Tuesday night. I think there was like 30 of us for dinner. Mia made like 4 kilos of roast potatoes. But yeah, that was really good. So that's kind of it for what I've done in the last week. Coming up, I'm back to school so coming up, I've got to finish experienced teacher. It's Thursday today, finish experienced teacher, and then back to work on Monday. I think I've got a staff day on Monday, which is like a gentle ease in, which is nice. The other thing that is coming up though is tomorrow is the anniversary of my dad's 1 year anniversary of him passing. And so my kids are all going to be home tomorrow evening. We're going to celebrate doing things that we used to do with my dad. So whenever he would come over to visit, he would bring berries, like because he used to smoke, which is what he had emphysema, and it was complications from that as to why he passed away. And when he quit smoking, finally, a bit too late for the emphysema, but he quit smoking, he was like, I've got so much money. So he would come over and he would bring blueberries and raspberries and blackberries, things that were, I was like, Dad, these are really expensive. And he's like, but I don't smoke anymore. And he would bring all these berries for us and then treats for the kids. So these things called mix maxes, which are, cake things and chips and all this kind of stuff, but he would bring the berries. That was the healthy thing. Anyway, so we're going to have berries and mix maxes and Pringles and all the things that he used to bring with him for the kids. I have to go get some of those tomorrow, and we're going to play Ticket to Ride and some 500, because whenever he came, we would play games. So we play 500 and this. I don't know if you've ever played Ticket to Ride, but it's really fun. And that's one of the things I loved about my dad. He was in his 80s and he was still learning and curious. So we taught him how to play Ticket to Ride. And in the beginning, he just played with one of the kids, and they played together. And then eventually he was like, yeah, I'm ready to do this myself. And then he would play himself. And he is competitive, but not crazy competitive. Like, he wanted to do well, but he didn't care if he didn't win, so which is like healthy competitive. Yeah, so we used to play that and 500. So anyway, that's what we're going to do tomorrow as a bit of a celebration of his life. Other than that coming up, the only other thing I wanted to share was my reading. I did actually finish Never Let Me Go. So I have been doing nice things for myself, and I was just like reading 2 chapters a day, and then it got to a point where I'm like, I want to finish this whole section. And then I just sort of read for a few hours, which was really lovely. It was a good book. I was a bit maybe a bit underwhelmed at the ending, but it was still a good book and I enjoyed reading it. So I do recommend that one. The next sort of enjoyable book that I plan to read for me that my friend Amy lent me is Lessons in Chemistry. She said she really enjoyed it. And I think they've made a movie or a series or something out of it. So, yep, so that's my next... haven't started it yet, but I do like to read, and probably the best way for me is just a little bit each day. Otherwise I would just go sit in the hammock and you wouldn't see me for 5 hours. So yeah, so it's kind of like eating chocolate, right? Like, you shouldn't eat the whole block, but it's nothing wrong with a few pieces. So, and then maybe in the Christmas holidays, that's when I'll let myself read. When I get 6 weeks off, that's when I'll let myself read a whole book in a day. Anyway, that's it. I'm starting to babble now. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will be back next week. And yeah, sorry about this one coming out a little late. And I think that's everything. Every time I go to edit this, I think, oh, I forgot this or I forgot that. But if I forgot it, I'll just mention it next week. All right, so I hope everyone is enjoying their knitting and I'll see you next week. Bye.